We check in on the asylum known as the Democrat Party, and it's not good for them.
How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see you for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really? I didn't see that. You know, I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape.
So this is all bad news for the Democrats, which is good news for my happy patriots. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are, where I bring you the news. Now, Trump had a giant meeting in the Oval Office.
I mean, the problem with Colorado is they have a very corrupt voting system. Look, I have so many friends in Colorado. Anytime you have mail-in voting, you have corrupt elections. Very simple. It's very simple. Even Jimmy Carter said it with his commission. They set up a commission with him and Scoop Jackson and some people, highly regarded people. And they said the one thing, the finding was, if you have mail-in voting, you will have corrupt elections. Well, your radical left governor decided that he was going to have all mail-in voting in Colorado. Once you have all mail-in voting, and for whatever reason, the Democrats cheat. And they cheat like, you know, they're not stupid. That's the only thing. They're no good on policy. They're no good on management. They're no good at government. But they're great at cheating. And they stick together, too. I give them credit for sticking together.
One good thing that he said, oh, fine, they're moving Space Force to Alabama. You know, is that big news? Do I have to show you a clip of that? No, I don't.
There's a video that is circulating online now of the White House where a window is open to the residents upstairs and somebody has thrown a big bag out the window. Have you seen this?
No, that's probably AI generated.
So
Actually, you can't open the windows. You know why? They're all heavily armored and bulletproof.
So that's a fake video?
Well, it's got to be, because I know every window up there. The last place I'd be doing it is that, because there's cameras all over the place, right?
Instead, what is bigger news to me is the Democrats trying to find out what direction they're going to go to ever get back in power again. That's more interesting to me. And I have not covered how well they are destroying themselves, which we celebrate. Welcome to Doug in Exile. Welcome to the Quad Club, the people that watch 4 videos a day all the way through. You're in the club. You're my people. You guys shout out and you're with your Quad Club statements all over the comments. I don't demand agreement. I really just want to give you the news and then hear from you. You give your opinion. Doug, you're right. Doug, you're wrong. This is what I think. It's fine. We love free speech. It's not free speech if you're not free to disagree or free to agree. If you really want to be right, you'll agree. I'm kidding. Okay. Here's Chuck Todd with Democrats on the show going like, man, we are really screwed up.
COVID was a seminal moment in politics. You know, even though we had more Democrats in Florida, registered Democrats in Florida, you know, when Rick Scott got elected, when DeSantis got elected, when Jeb Bush got elected, when Charlie Crist got elected, we still had more Democrats, but we were still electing Republican governors. Okay. Now there are 1.2 million more registered Republicans. It's starting to get to a point that it's not recoverable, at least not in the short term.
Florida's unrecoverable. That's my dream for the entire United States, Lord. That's my prayer, that the entire United States becomes unrecoverable for the Democrat Party, just like Florida. This guy's in the wrong party. He tried warning them, by the way. They largely say the biggest shift, this is going all the way back to Jeb Bush in the mid-2000s. Jeb Bush himself changed their voter rolls, changed their voting after the hanging Chad situation in 2000 and 2001. He cleaned up their voter rolls. Arizona needs to do that so bad because they would flip around to Republican for life if they ever cleaned up their voting system. One of the worst voting systems in America is in Arizona. Still corrupt, still way off, not even close. Florida wraps it up, and now, lo and behold, Florida, according to a Democrat, is unrecoverable.
Okay. But I think COVID was a big piece of it. I think COVID was a big piece, and I was there. I was involved in it on the other side. I think And I have.
How did Joe Biden only lose by 3 points then? If
How did he
COVID
only
was a big
lose?
part of it? He lost Florida in 2020 by just 3 points.
Well, I mean, again, as Joe Biden would say, don't judge me against the almighty, judge me against the alternative. And so 2020, right, we were still mid-COVID, okay? And, you know, people wanted a change. They wanted a change, right? And so that was a mood politic. Okay. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis won his re-election in Florida by 19 points, and Donald Trump just won Florida by 13 points.
Yeah.
Okay. So the policies that came out of COVID, closing of schools, the fact that Florida opened schools early because the data was clear, it wasn't spreading in schools. Right. That's a big piece, Chuck.
The data said that COVID was not spreading in schools, and the Democrat Party still wanted schools shut down. Democrats are not pro-science, pro-data. We're going to prove it right here. This Democrat is saying it himself. They had the data, and they went with the shutdowns, even though they knew it wouldn't affect. So they damaged children. Why?
I mean, and I was telling my Democratic colleagues, like, guys, read the data. Like, I would sit at a conference table with the governor. We'd be reading the data from Denmark, right, and Germany and Europe because they were ahead of us, and it was clear it wasn't spreading in the schools. Okay, and I said to my Democratic colleagues, I'm like, when we open schools, it's going to be very popular. When you guys come out and tell parents you want to keep their kids in the house for another year, okay. I'm telling you, this is where this is going. And none of my colleagues wanted to hear it, Chuck.
None of the colleagues wanted to hear the data, the science that might protect people, that might keep children from being mentally abused or abused further at home. And they didn't want to hear it. Why? Because it would help Republicans.
None of them wanted to hear
Is
it.
that the power of the teachers union? Would you ascribe it to that, or is it?
Well, of course, we also hate teachers unions. Teacher unions are anti-child, anti-education, anti-family. That's my big problems with teachers unions. But the teachers unions have the Democrat Party by the cojones because they reorient all of their teachers' funding. They give donations. You pay your dues to the teachers union. The teachers union only funds Democrat presidents, governors, and initiatives.
It's part teachers union, part teachers union.
Okay.
Part also, we were at a point of polarization that if DeSantis wanted to open government, open schools, then I had to be against it.
Right.
If DeSantis was for opening a school, the Democrat Party had to be against it, even if the science and the data agreed with DeSantis, and the Democrats go, we're against the science, the data, and DeSantis and opening schools. That's what their religion, their pagan, bizarre, anti-science religion got them. So Democrat Party, big trouble because they hate DeSantis more than they hate abusing their children by furthering a lockdown that the data says is okay. Here's Guy P. Benson over on Fox News with more on the Democrat Party just completely pooping the bed.
Let's talk about what I'm seeing here, which is a few different approaches from some Democratic leaders around the country. You had Muriel Bowser, mayor of this town, turning some heads last week by kind of admitting the crackdown has worked and welcoming the huge drop in crime. You have Governor Newsom out in California, who is attacking Trump constantly, but also has deployed what he's calling crime suppression teams, which is at least a nod to the problem. Then you have this two-headed monster in Illinois, the governor and the mayor of Chicago, saying basically, we don't have a problem here. Fight, fight, fight with Trump.
Yeah.
What do you make of those approaches from different leaders within your party?
Remember, from your party, and I had this guy in the last video. He's a Democrat about to throw Pritzker and Brandon Johnson in Chicago, Illinois, under the bus.
I see a hint of sensibility coming with Mayor Bowser. Thank God I live in Washington, D.C. It's the story of a moderate or conservative being a former liberal who was mugged by reality. And I think she's seeing the results of what Trump has done. For the most part, I think the Democratic Party suffers from a form of nihilism, which is...
Now, this philosophy is what fascinates me. Nihilism. We are nihilists, Lebowski. They believe in nothingness. It's like anarchism. But, nihilism, where we get annihilate, is to obliterate it. They believe in nothing. They have no internal values, the nothingness. And that's why they can oppose anything. They can oppose saving children. They can oppose stopping children. They can take any side on any issue because they don't have any skin in the game outside of gaining power.
Fed by the academic and the activist left, which preaches a deep skepticism in law enforcement, a deep skepticism in secure borders, a deep skepticism in things like gender.
Skepticism is you don't believe in anything. So deep skepticism will eventually produce nihilism. I'm a skeptic of certain things, not of my faith. I'm a skeptic of the Democrat Party. I'm skeptical of things that people tell me must be accepted without facts. Things like global warming, things like all that. Actually, global warming is a pretty bad, because people will admit that the globe is warming. Was it man-made or is it natural? When you have near 1,000-degree swings across our billion years history or whatever.
And it is leading the party into a really, really bad place. So while I see some hints at sensibility from Newsom, the point you just made, Muriel Bowser, and what she said in acknowledging the progress of Trump, I see the party still locked into this nihilistic, we are going to challenge these basic norms that American people want, law enforcement, for example, because we believe that somehow these are oppressive or racist or some other sort of form of something that we have to destruct, and that's where the party is going wrong.
And it's
so the party is simply against Trump. We have to destroy these phantom things, and they're not going to get better on that. That's good news. Here's Britt Hume with more over on Fox. Let me get him up here on deck. Britt Hume.
Well, this is an interesting situation because there's obviously a political imperative in the Democratic Party to do all one can to resist Donald Trump. It's been that way for a long time, and it still is. And so you see these politicians in a situation where, as you saw in Washington, D.C., you surge forces, including the kind of agents that Pritzker was talking about, plus troops into a city, and the crime goes down, and sharply and immediately. And so as these politicians express their dislike of the president's actions to please many in their base, at the same time, they're putting themselves in a situation where they're resisting law enforcement trying to stop crime.
They're pro-crime. They're against law enforcement, even when it stops crime. That's the Democrat Party. They hate Trump so much, they will defend crime against law enforcement, even harming themselves, their own children, their own communities. That's nihilism. They just hate Trump. And by the way, it's not just about Trump. I know that they specifically hate Trump more than any other president they've ever heard of in their entire lifetime. They hate Trump more than murder. They hate Trump more than Adolf Hitler. They hate Trump more than cancer. They hate Trump more than anything. But I'll tell you, when you slot J.D. Vance into that spot and he runs in 2028, they will hate him too. Not as much as Trump, because only Trump uniquely makes a leftist go psycho. But J.D. Vance is going to get plenty of hate in case you think that they're somehow principled against Trump. To my Democrat people watching, it's not principled. Don't pretend like Trump has it coming, because J.D. Vance will not have had it coming. And when he gets into office, they will lose their blanking mind because he's a threat to their power. This is just, the Democrats go nuts if anyone touches their power.
I think that in the broad voter base in this country, that's a mistake. And I think the president understands that, which is why he keeps talking about this. It's not entirely clear how much he's just trolling them or whether he intends to do it or both. But the fact is he's leading them into what I think is kind of a political trap.
Yeah, Trump. It's so easy for Trump to trap a Democrat into just immolating, committing hara-kiri in public, pulling their pants down and screaming in front of everyone. That's Trump's spiritual gift. He's very good at it. I hope J.D. Vance gets better at it too. I think he's going to be plenty fine. I'm a big supporter of him already. He's going to be the front runner. He's going to be the candidate. No matter who else they say may or may not run, doesn't matter. J.D. Vance is the candidate. Now, here is that CNN guy on the polls, which they're still, Democrats are in big, just
Democrats
big
are making
trouble.
a big push to reclaim the governor's mansions in Virginia and the governor's mansion in Virginia in November. They're also banking on the party keeping the governor's office in New Jersey.
Good luck,
Why
weirdos.
these two races in particular are being watched so closely for signals in next year's midterms? Harry Enton is running the numbers on that for you this morning. How are things, set the table, how are things looking in Virginia and New Jersey 2 months out?
Yeah, I would say that these two races are the biggest flashing red siren signs for Republicans. Why is that? Let's take a look right now at the prediction market odds in both New Jersey and in Virginia. And in both cases, the Democrats are favored. Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, 89% chance of winning according to the prediction markets.
These are generally leaning Democrat-y type places. So this isn't like they're going deep into red territory here.
Abigail Spanberger in the great Commonwealth of Virginia, we're talking a 94% chance of winning. I was looking at the polling data as well. The Democrats in both these races hold high single-digit leads. Obviously, Glenn Youngkin, currently the Republican governor of Virginia, was able to win there. And in New Jersey, the Democrats barely squeaked by back in 2021. Right now, the polling leads in both those states are larger for the Democrats. They're in better position than they were back in 2021. That's why in both cases, the Democrats are heavily favored. And as I said earlier on, to me, this is a flashing red siren warning sign for Republicans.
Not a real big deal. Trump could go campaign over there and call out Democrat crime. And it's possible he could help pull them over the finish line. But we have to do some work over there. Can't lose those seats. So that is a flashing red sign. Remember, Mitch McConnell used to allocate the funds and everything, and he would never give them to true MAGA guys. No more of that. And now I like ending my shows on a positive, happy, humorous note. And on this one, it's going to be that Jerry Nadler has announced his retirement. He's not running again.
Yesterday, he decided to announce his retirement from Congress. He represented my district, this district that I have lived in since 2011. Nadler's retirement means that this seat, one that has represented much of New York's Jewish community for decades, is wide open for the first time in an entire generation. Question is, who's going to fill it?
And here's the tweet. Jerry Nadler is retiring. I will miss not seeing him at press conferences. Here's Jerry Nadler.
But these people are wearing masks and are totally unidentified. The question is why? It's completely improper. And again, one has to assume they're hiding something, or they're hiding misbehavior, because otherwise, why would they be wearing masks and denying their identity?
Doug in Exile, this is where the happy patriots are.
Because without the United States, everything in the world would die.